Hey there, YouTube. Welcome back. This is the Allegheny Northern in N scale, and today we're going to do the August 2023 layout update. And I'm pretty happy with where we got to this month, especially as you saw in that opening shot. This was the month of vacation, and so during vacation month, that usually ties up 2 weekends, one weekend going, one weekend coming back. So we were down to basically just 2 weekends left in the month to be down in the train room, and let me show you what we got done. Okay, so we're going to start back here. If you recall, this was one of the scenes that I wanted to get done in August, and although it's not detailed yet, I am going to call it substantially complete. For those of you in the construction industry, you know exactly what that means. But basically, I've got some things obviously that still need done, but it's pretty much good enough for now, so it's not a plywood Pacific. So I got my Y scenic in here, got my static grass and ground flock in, got the track ballasted, and then we've put the scene together here for the gas station. Now, I tried a different technique on the road here, and I'm really happy with the results. So I want to zoom in here and show you what that looks like. And if you can guess what I did, I took the concrete color from, this is the acrylic from AK Interactive, and I did the whole road in it, right? And where I wanted the asphalt, and I put a black wash, just a basic acrylic black wash thinned with water. I used some Walmart brand acrylic paint, so nothing fancy. And I just washed this area over so it weathered it and made it look like asphalt, all in the same swipe. And I'm very happy with the results because you get that textured, pebbled look that you get with asphalt. And so basically all asphalt is, right, is an aggregate mixed with a bituminum asphalt product and then compacted. So it's basically stones held together with a glue, which is the asphalt. So by using this textured concrete, which here it is in its native form, I got that stony look, and then there it is. So very happy with the way that looked in completion. I may weather it down a little bit more with some powders, but for now, I'm down to the final detailing. So people, cars, line painting, that sort of thing. And then as far as the showcase miniatures fire truck goes there, it's hard to tell, but if you zoom in, if I zoom in for you, you see that there's a bit of stranded wire kind of braided to hold that thing up. So I kept all of the mobility in the model there, so I can put that ladder down, I can move it around, but it's held in place now. So I'm going to make it look like there's a open house going on and people are standing around looking at the fire truck. So that's going to be the end scene here. At some point I may add operable lights to this, but I haven't quite gotten that far yet. So look for that to come. It might be a future project when I go to sort of super detail the scene. Okay, so back to our opening scene here. You guys know that I love winter, and I'm always trying new techniques for the winter scenes. And I picked up some new products that I wanted to try here because they seem to be perfectly suited for what I had done here previously. And I'm going to zoom in here so you can see the texture a little bit. So this is a melting scene where the snow's kind of gross and ugly. And if you've ever been up into the mid-Atlantic, northeast region during winter, we get these strange parts where it's not snowing. Sometimes it'll actually even rain, and the snow just gets kind of icy and gross and just slushy, and it's just it is the doldrums of winter for sure, and I wanted that to be in this scene because a lot of times when we get that, it's when the seasons are just getting started. So fall's turning into winter, or winter's turning into spring, and we get sort of that freeze and thaw. So I went back and I redid the scene a little bit to represent, some fresh snow versus some, old melty snow. And there's always kids that are trying to build their last snowman or their first snowman, depending on what it is, when there's not really enough snow on the ground to do that. So I still wanted the slushy snow to be there, but I also wanted you to see the dead grass that hasn't come back for spring yet, or died because of fall. So I'm very happy with the products that I was using here. Tried a couple of different techniques to apply it, being a spatula, basically a palette knife, and then also a brush to get the more stippled trample effect. And like I said, I'm very happy with the way that came out. I conveyed that sort of winter grossness that I wanted in this season. So this scene's ready for trees now, and vehicles and stuff like that. So it's ready to be detailed. All of the ground foam is in and everything. So let me show you the products that I used here. Just take you for a quick spin. Sorry if you get motion sickness. But for the actual thicker snow, I used the AK Interactives. It's an acrylic snow paste, much like the concrete. And it's a little bit pricey for the size of the jar you get. So you're not going to do a whole layout in this, but some small scenes like that one, just perfect. And then on top of that, to make the snow look even fresher, I added the micro balloons. A lot doesn't look like a lot in the container, but a little bit goes a long way, and that gives you the fluffiness to the snow. And then you've seen the ice sparkles before, because I've used those on previous layouts. Here's or scenes, I should say. So here's a price on that, so you can see how these are adding up pretty quick here, right? And then the last, this snow sparkles. This is the part that gives it that icy look. So you can combine all of these together, and they all kind of lay on top of each other, and you can get different effects of the snow. And it's good to point out, and I know I covered this in my snow videos, but there are different types of snow. You have the cold, dry snow that's real light, fluffy, can't make snowball out of it. You have the real wet, heavy snow that's good for snowballs and igloos and all that sort of stuff that you made as a kid, or maybe you're making with your kids now. And then there's various melts and refreezes and recovers in between. And with these products, you can get that effect if you mess around with them. So if you're looking to do winter, this is the way to do it. Okay, and then the last little bit that I did on the layout itself was I started working on the upper level downtown area again. So I got those buildings painted. Those are going to be background buildings for now. I need to do some detailing back there because you can see, well, one, the building's not leveled, and two, it's just a sea of concrete texture paste. So I need to get that sort of done. Got the sidewalks in, but once again, you can see that they're not sitting quite level because the surface wasn't sanded down all the way. So I'm going to use the textured paste, and I'm going to continue it down along the front of the buildings here just to build up against the sidewalk. And then I'm going to turn it down the street here. And then, so part of it's going to be asphalt, part of it's going to be concrete. And we keep saying asphalt, and there is an increasing number of people that are calling it asphalt. And I don't know where that started from, but I keep hearing it over and over again. And I just encourage everyone to take a look at the spelling of that and understand it's not asphalt. So if you're calling it that, please stop. You're not pronouncing it correctly. So PSA there in the middle, I guess. But anyway, asphalt. So the asphalt there, I'm going to continue that texture along the back, and then I'm going to leave this parking lot. I can't figure out if I'm going to make it a paved parking lot or if I'm going to leave it, extend the stone that's in the rest of it down. So as soon as I figure out what I'm going to do there, I'll finish that scene up. But in any event, the other thing that I did here is I added some static grass between the rails, and I wanted to give the impression that this is a not totally well-maintained branch line, even though it's busy. Want to do as little maintenance work as possible. So what I did is I added the fine turf between it to give it a nice green yellow color, and then I put a small bead of glue down the center and added the static flock, let it all dry for a couple of days, and then cleaned it off just so that vacuumed it out just so that we wouldn't get any fibers stuck inside our locomotives or into our rolling stock. And so I also have been working on the track up here because it was basically neglected for a very long time. And then adding all that material between the rails also didn't help. So I tried to clean it up and sort of straighten it out, file the joints a little bit, and then make sure that, of course, I didn't have any of my scenery material causing me any grief with getting trains down through there. And as you can see, for the most part, I don't have any issues. Probably should have coupled a little bit harder there, but this is more of a showing you that the trains will run over that scenery. Just a word of caution. That was me that stopped it, in case you were wondering. I didn't stop on its own. But just a word of caution. Anytime you work any kind of material between the rails, you got to keep it away from the rail, definitely down from the rail heads, and definitely away from the sides of the rails, because if your locomotive moves contact, it will stop when you're not expecting it to stop. And then you don't want any of that stuff getting picked up into the locomotive itself, obviously. So just proving to you that I did stall out. So anyway, that scene is coming along nicely. So those are the two major items that I wanted to get done in August, and despite taking a brief vacation there, I was able to get them done. So I'm happy with that, and that included actually painting this building right here. Did a lot of that with airbrush. I'm getting more and more confident with my airbrush every day. So that building to the right there with the green storefront needs weathered. It needs an interior, it needs lighting, it needs all kinds of stuff. But the general color is there, and I went for an older look because that's an older style building. So I kind of painted it in a older storefront, which was where that green was a lot more common. Now it would probably be an aluminum or a bronze storefront, but one of the old look there. So, okay, so this next segment is a request for help, because in this month I tried to speed match these two locomotives, the two in the back, so the CN and the Operation Lifesaver NS unit. And my rationale was that these two small locomotives paired together, not only did they, one, make a nice combination, but the CN locomotive has an ESU sound decoder. It's an Atlas. And then the Operation Lifesaver, which I believe is, I think it's a Fox Valley. Don't quote me on that. But in any event, because the CN locomotive has the sound, there's certain things that it won't run until the sound sequence completes, things like that. So it's actually a really cool model. It's one of the master line from Atlas, so it's a nice locomotive. But because it's got various, I'm going to call them hold features on it, I had to delve into some CVs that were not ones I would usually mess with. So normally I would mess with 2, 5, and 6, get a basic speed curve going, and then that was pretty much enough to match my locomotives. But now with this little guy, I've had to jump into 3 and 4. Because there seemed to be speed steps as to how fast the locomotive accelerated, decelerated, stuff like that. Okay, so no big deal. Should be easy enough to find out what Mr. CN here has, and then match them to Mr. NS, and then adjust those numbers from there to get them to line up. Well, just want to show you here. So after hours of playing with it, my NS locomotive still takes off way fast. And so that's obviously a problem because, they're pushing. So let me reset this here so that I'll show you again. And now I know that the locomotive has a startup, so I don't try moving it until the, say 30-second startup is complete, just because that adds a whole nother complexity to it. But even when we go in reverse here, just want to show you. The NS takes off way before the CN does, and so they're once they get going, they match fine. It's just in that getting started sequence that they don't line up. And I have played, I've done the Google, I've done everything I can to find out how to make these two match, and I'm just not successful. So if you are a DCC guru and you know how to make that work better, or if there's a CV that I am not adjusting, leave me a comment down below. Love to know what I'm doing wrong here, because I want these two to run a lot better together. And like I said, once they get going, they're fine. They seem to match fine higher up on the curve. It's just that initial start sequence that's not lining up correctly. So feel free to leave that comment down below. Okay, so I was going to dedicate an entire video to what you're seeing here on the screen, but I decided that I'm going to throw this into the update because it's something I'm working on, and it's something that you guys actually might be able to help me out with. So, for those of you who are super nerds, you know that there is an entire collection of folks who are dedicated to wargaming. It's a game played with little miniatures. They get painted. You build your own, basically, game boards with it using pretty much the same techniques we do. And then you go out there and you play your opponents, and everybody has a good time. Now, I am not a war gamer, so I've never played the Dungeons and Dragons or the Warhammer or any of the other war games. I don't really know how the games are played, but I surmise that we could use those same rules to run our railroads. So I started setting up some basic rules here. So basically what it does is all of your game, all of your layout operating session is based on chance. So you would take a typical 6 sided die, I guess, and you would roll it. So if you rolled a 1 or 2, you'd be on local service, and there would be 2 locals that would be, for that. 3 or 4, you'd be running an Amtrak train, and 5 or 6, you'd be running a through train. And so then I started laying out what the locals would be. So if you rolled a 1 or a 2, then you'd have to roll your die again to find out which train you were going to run for your local. And so then it would give you what it is. This would further be broken down into what was actually on, there'd be a switch list basically associated with it, and you would know which cars you were picking up and which cars you were setting off. So I set those up. If you rolled an over-the-road train, then here would be your options. So these roll again. Basically, I didn't have any other trains to run, so I would either expand my operations, or you would just have to roll again to get 1 through 3. And then if you then you would roll, and you would have what I'm calling AI trains. So these are trains that would be running the loop on the layout, but you would not be controlling them. Basically, they would just be there to make whatever train you rolled up above more difficult, because they would be operating on the main line. So you would have to clear whatever train you ran would be lower priority than the trains that were coming through the layout. Now, the next thing that I wanted to do was have a actual defect detector. So they have made electronic ones in the past. It does not appear that they're available any longer, at least not from what I could tell. So what would happen is, on the layout, you would have a little card pocket, and in it would be a couple dozen cards. And you would, as your train rolled past that area, you would have to pull a card. And so the card would look something like this. So you'd have your milepost, and it would tell you whether or not you had a defect. And be different mileposts, different readouts. If you had a defect, you would get the alert that you had to stop your train. It would tell you that you have a defect and what that defect is. And then in order to figure out which car needed set out, you would once again play the game and roll the die, and it would tell you which axle on your train is having an issue. So in addition to that, before you started your session, you would pick up a situation card, and that situation card would have a title, and then it would tell you what situation is occurring on your on your train. So, you're having issues with a locomotive, you're having weather issues, you're having a medical emergency on your train, you know, getting an underrated power, any of these items here. And so I'm making different situation cards that you would pull, and basically that would give you an option to operate this layout basically as a game. So I started writing some of this stuff down, started making up the rules. However, that's about as far as I got in my brainstorming. So what I'm going to do for ask from you folks out there, if you have a situation card that you would like to see, some kind of a situation that could pull up during an operating session, feel free to leave it in the comment below. If it makes sense for the layout, I will get it into a card. And then once I get this whole thing sort of finalized and rolled out, I will, we'll do a video and I'll show you exactly what we came up with here. So we'll do an operating session and we'll use these cards and this roll of the dice, and we can learn together to see if this is going to be something that will happen in the future for future games. Okay, that's going to do us for August, and since I am officially back from summer vacation and there's no more beach time, that means, as far as I'm concerned, summer is over. And although the yard work would say otherwise, in my mind, I am back to... I just realized I had my tweezers between the tracks, and it must have been centered perfectly because the trains have been running and haven't hit it. So that's fun. But anyway, that means we're gonna start getting into full on winter, and that means more train time because who wants to go outside in winter? So coming up next month here, I'm going to be working on getting some of these infill areas done. I do want to start actually working on this scene now that I've got those other two scenes basically roughed in as how they're going to look. Now it's just a matter of getting down to the fine detail parts. So I'm going to start working on getting rid of my plywood here and scenicking this in. I haven't forgotten about the rain scene. There's a lot of parts and pieces that I need to get done before I can start shooting those videos. So we're a little ways off on that. But probably one of the bigger developments in the layout progression here is that I have finally found a signal system that I like. So I have found signals that I think are going to work out perfectly for the layout. They are, I'm not going to tell you who I found, but for now, I found a signal system kits that I've got to put together that I like, so I need to get those ordered. I found a control system for those signals that seems to be perfect for what I'm trying to accomplish here. And for those of you who are, the proto guys that want to do everything like the real railroad does, I admire you, but I don't have I don't think I have the level of patience or the desire to do that. So I want a system that looks like it's operating realistically, but doesn't necessarily have to follow all of the rules. So basically I need to be able to trigger the signals, need to be able to detect a few blocks ahead, and I'm trying to work in maybe some switch alignments around the yard. So, but it's not going to be a full, CTC system where there's a board and a dispatcher and all that. It's going to sort of operate on its own, no computer background. It's all going to be layout based. But anyway, so now that I've got that finally decided, we can start the painful process of getting the entire layout from being in the dark to signaled. So that's going to be coming up. And September is going to be the N-Scale weekend in Altoona, and this is one of the first years that I'm going to be going to that without a predetermined set of a shopping list, basically. So who knows what I'm going to find out there and what is going to come back with me. It's probably going to be more than I anticipated, but that's the fun of these kind of shows. So I'm not going to get too upset about it. So if you are heading out to the N-Scale weekend in Altoona, I'm probably going to be there on the Saturday. I like to get there right around opening to see all the goodies, and so that will probably be the day that I'm there. More details on that. Still a few weeks off, so more details on that when I get a little further along here. But that's going to wrap us up here for August. Once again, I don't have any other videos scheduled, so there's a good chance the next video will be the September layout update. But if I do come along with something that I think you guys want to, you'll want to see, I will do another video in between. And then once again, if you've got any input on making those two locomotives speed match a little bit better on startup and slowdown, and also if you've got any insight into what you might like to see worked into the game, the card game, so to speak, let me know, and I'll be happy to take opinions, comments. Until next time, happy modeling, folks.